Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time for some Goodwill hunting again. There's a few other episodes in the series if you happen to have missed them, but occasionally, some very generous or unknowing family members donate really expensive guitars through the masses of Guitar Hero controllers and cheap budget entry-level guitars. So what was the golden goose this time? Check this out, a Gibson ES333 Tom DeLonge signature. These are worth almost 5 figures nowadays, depending on the condition. If you need to know a little bit more about this model, I have reviewed and demoed one, but essentially what makes this interesting is it's pretty much a 335 in this fact that it still has a center block, except for it's not as fancy. This particular version only has one bridge pickup, because that's the way Tom wanted it. It also only has one volume control right here. The one I reviewed, it looks a little bit different here because somebody added another control to it. It still featured binding on the fretboard with the dot inlays, but look at our headstock on this one. It was a natural color, and he had the Gibson silkscreen logo. And on top of all that, it's a satin finished guitar, so it's not a full-on gloss. And as another cost savings feature, they have a backplate in order to wire up the guitar easier. So you might be saying, hey, wait a minute, Trogly, weren't you just saying this is like a $10,000 guitar, but now you're telling us it's cheaper than a 335? Well, that's where the whole Tom DeLonge feature comes in, you know, the Blink-182 Angels and Airwaves guy. There were very few of his signature models made, and he has a diehard fan base. So it's kind of similar to like the Buckethead Les Pauls. People fight over these things, and every year that there's not a reissue, the prices go crazy. I mean, even look at the Epiphone version of this one. They're selling for good money yet today, too. So this particular one was made in 2006. It's got the Tom DeLonge signature decal on the back. I mean, it seemed to be in pretty good condition. It has this weird finish check right here, which you don't normally see on satin finishes too often. But since it goes over here, you can definitely tell that's just within the clear coat, nothing to worry about. Everything looks good with our orange sticker. It even still has the original case. Although sadly, it does not look like this guitar has been played too much, so it likely means a family donated this to the Goodwill shop from a deceased family member. I mean, look at that fret. Oh, that is awful. It needs polished up and shined up. I can make that look real good in about an hour, but this will definitely need some TLC. So how much did it end up selling for? Put your guesses in now. I was surprised. I thought it was going to get more. $5,901. I mean, that's a great donation to Goodwill and everything they do. And granted, some people ask a lot of money for these things. The $9,000 and $10,000 plus ones, they don't sell none too fast. But that doesn't mean that they haven't brought that much. Like $6,000 is definitely on the low end of the market. Like you've got to be lucky to find one for $55,000 and $6,000. Generally, you're around that $8,000 range when buying from a dealer anyways. And these prices on the limited editions just keep going up and up. So whoever scored that, congratulations. That was a great price to pay for one of these. But I suppose while we're here, we might as well check out what else is in inventory. If you want to find the good stuff, click on musical instruments, click on whatever you want. For me, that's guitars and basses. And just like on Reverb, up here they have this. To weed out all the cheap stuff, you go highest first. So we've got an expensive acoustic guitar, another Gibson. Wow. Whoa. That's interesting to see. Oh my goodness, they have a SoCal Speed Shop? Some sort of a ESP LTD there. Ooh, we might need to look into that. Really nice looking Epiphone. One of these weird things. And we can't not look at that. All right, gotta say, I'm impressed with our selection this time, so we'll start off with the Silvertone. It's nothing too exciting. Generally, the story goes for these is people will find these in pawn shops, think they're some really rare vintage guitar, they'll buy them, they'll take them home. Yeah, they're kind of cool and quirky, and I'm sure there's some guys who have nostalgic feelings over them. But the few that I had, they weren't the best guitars, but you cannot deny that they look cool. So if you're looking for a cheap project guitar to like learn how to work on instruments or anything, maybe try one of these things out. Next up, we have Unknown Acoustic Guitar, $3,500. That's a lot of bids for something that looks all old and worn down. That's probably why it got donated, but it must be something good for people to bid it up that much. Wow, that's so much dust caked on there. The back looks like it's made out of pretty nice wood though. Maybe maple? Not quite too sure. But what is this freaky little thing? I don't think I've ever seen a Gibson acoustic quite like that. It's got the old 50s, 60s chipboard alligator style cases. And that's kind of like a LOO or something similar, small bodied. Guess what's really throwing me off is the cherry sunburst finish. You don't see it so vibrant on old acoustics that often. So that probably puts this one in what, 60s, 70s? But thankfully, we might be able to do a little bit more digging here. So we've got a factory order number here, I believe. Instead of like a traditional serial number, we can use this to help us date it. So that's an R6917. Now, Reverb hosts this, but there's other places you can get it too. According to them, their factory order number prefixes, an R would fall under 1960. Which, looking at the Cherry Sunburst finish, the bursts coming out around that time, okay, that seems to line up. Now I just need to find out what model it is. But alright, with a generic search here, I think I might have found something similar here. LG2 3/4 size. Okay, that's why it looks so strange. That's a pretty good match. So it joins up at the 14th fret. This one seems to match there pretty good too. But this one has a pick guard. And so does this one. Yeah, I think we've correctly identified it here as a 1960 LG2 3/4 size. So it looks like on this one, somewhere in there, it might be stamped LG2 3/4. I love that. That's cool. I'm glad I took the time to dig into that. That thing looks in good shape. With bids up to $2,700, I'd say that's already going for pretty good money. Like, here's what you normally see these Cherry Sunbursts as. So the fact that the Goodwill one still has all that color is quite miraculous. Speaking of miraculous, I'm surprised somebody donated something like this. This is what, an early 1900s Gibson? Back before all the popular models that we know about today came out, you had these acoustics, and they had like those harp guitars too that were done up in a very similar style. Now, unfortunately, our serial number has been lost to time there, but we've got the awesome The Gibson logo with a nice mahogany looking back and tuners that appear to be on upside down by today's standards anyways. Oh. That's a shame. It needs a little bit of restoration work, but these old Gibsons, they're worth it. But even all broken and beat up, still worth a pretty penny. So next up we have this Korean-made Fender. Racing culture is really lost on me, but I've always thought these were fascinating guitars. From the striking color scheme to the name of it, SoCal, that's cool. Appears to be a fixed bridge with one humbucker, single volume control, great for volume swells. But what I always loved was the matching headstock and the matching fretboard. It's all red. And they even did it on the back. So eventually I will review and document one of these because I just think they're cool, even though I'm not necessarily the target demographic for this one. Now that I know about the Mike Ness Deluxe, I'd probably have to put a Mr. Horsepower on here too. I think he would work real well on the ball end of the headstock. So maybe I'll have to keep an eye on that because that's what's great about these is they're not all that expensive. $1,500 will get you a mint one. There's another one for $900, but we'll have to see where that auction takes us. Now this one's an interesting mystery. So is it actually Gibson? I mean, it had a fighting chance a little bit right here, but then once you look at that headstock, oh no. Definitely some sort of an import knockoff trying to go after the Scorpions vibe down here. Which there are custom shop edition ones of these in the 80s that have those stripes. You can also find like the Michael Schenker ones. But yeah, this just looks like a generic import. Ooh, interesting trem system they've got going on there. And their bridge is kind of interesting as well. I mean, the thumb wheels need to go on the underside of it, but this is quite fascinating, and you might actually have some decent pickups in here. I believe there's some DiMarzios out there that have these kind of pull pieces, so you might get lucky there. But that could be a fun project for someone. At a current bidding of $326, I mean, you gotta remember, you are getting a case that fits an Explorer, so that's worth at least $100 right there. So any more than $450, you probably don't want it. It seems you always find these things in the Goodwill shop too. It's when Gibson made Stratocasters under the Epiphone branding instead of what they're doing like with the Kramer branding now. I want to review one of these, but I'm waiting for the right color because I like the ones that have the matching headstocks. There were a few different model variations on these. This one kind of reminds me of my first guitar a little bit. And oh, nice, it's one of the good ones. I love the ones that have the Epiphone mother of pearl logo. That does seem to be a little bit beat up. But Explorer headstock on Stratocaster, yeah, it's a little bit weird. You can also find tellies like this. I'll have to keep my eye on that because I would pay up to $200 on that one, even if it is a little bit beat up because those have been going up in value lately. But we've got to dig into this 20 plus bulk guitar lot. Only $100 so far. It's got 2 days on it, so it'll go up. Wow, that's actually a decent brand name. I think it's the lower version of an Ovation. It's kind of sad to see guitars all lopped together like this. Oh man, this one even has that chordy system on it, where you just put your finger on it, and then it makes an A chord, a D chord, G chord, whatnot. It's more so a novelty product, but look at that one. It's an interesting shape. It's got a giant eyeball on it. Some of these even have hard shell cases. That's a classical I mean, that thing actually looks pretty nice. It's a Squire. That'll have at least a little bit of value to it. Something a little bit older with a trapeze tailpiece. Here's the problem. Maybe it's not a problem because it's pickup only. That's why this is going to go a little bit cheaper, because shipping all those would just eat up the value of every single guitar. Now, there's a few of them in here that I think are worth a little bit of money, but maybe they've got some issues. But that was a fascinating lot. But this thing reminded me of like an old ES-295, which it kind of feels like somebody was trying to make it like that. They have this makeshift pickup in here with a pot installed on the top of the pickguard. And I think Scotty Moore had something similar on his at one point in time, but this guy has his initials RF. But no name on the headstock needs a little bit of work, that's for sure. Especially the fretboards. That reminds me of my cleaning up Grandpa's guitar episode. And there's always a crack on the output jack on these things. But you know, that thing has character. A little bit of love would go a long way. I mean, its financial value is probably not much more than the pickup system that's on it. I haven't been able to find any recent sales on what it could be worth, but I have found some other photos of these things. Basically a DeArmond style knockoff pickup that you can mount to the front of your archtop guitar. I'd pay $100 for that. That looks like a lot of fun. Somebody played it a lot. You can see the finish has been worn off the neck. And this thing looks like somebody got a cheap Stratocaster and tried to do an aging relic job on it. I've got to say, as far as amateur aging jobs go, this one's not too bad. I love their setup with the trem system all the way up. It's got a good vibe to it. It just needs a little bit of setup work. Figure out who these signatures are on here. It's definitely just an import style Stratocaster, nothing too fancy, but the fretboard doesn't look too half bad. It even has the Fender style headstock, which is a big no-no in today's market, but if you've been wanting an aged custom shop but you don't have the budget for it, hey, check out Goodwill with their 2 springs back here. I think what I like most about this one is just the color in general. It's a really dark orange. But it looks like this body was made out of like so many pieces, if that's what we're really seeing here. Current bid is at $90. Next up, we've got one of these Martin backpacker guitars. I came close to buying one of these. Last I checked anyways, they were worth around like $300, $400 on the used market. So that one could be a good deal. But it looks like today, you can get them for only $280. Wow, the market's definitely come down a little bit on these. Because I remember I was going to get one for Trade Tuesday, and I think I was offering $200, and they were selling for a bit more back then. But perhaps the best thing we're going to see at Goodwill, maybe even better than the Tom DeLonge. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, if that's not a thumbnail, I don't know what is. So it looks like somebody took like a vintage cookie tray that was a clown and they transformed it into a guitar. It's got a very nice wraparound tailpiece that's intonatable. That might have some value within itself. They put an output jack right here, right at the bottom of its creepy face, and they made a tiny little guitar out of it. It's not full scale, that's for sure. They just put some neck on it. Like, you can check out this Would You Rock or Not episode from a long time ago for the Darth Vader guitar. You just buy yourself a generic guitar neck and you slap it onto here. Interesting. How much is it? So far, $76. It's definitely worth the price of admission for that. I hope it goes for like $1,000. And the last one we're going to talk about today is a Gretsch Americana series guitar, Sundown Serenade. This might not look like much because generally collectors left these things in the boxes, but it was a limited edition set of guitars that had, you know, these interesting graphics. I actually had a full set of these at one point in time. I got them off of Craigslist. I think I sold the set for $600 and now they're worth a lot more today. But they had some interesting boxes to them and people just like them, you know, for cheaper collectible guitars that they can hang up or display. So seeing one outside of the box is actually kind of weird for me. Alright, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed Goodwill hunting with me tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.